Alright guys, how's it going? Welcome back to All for United, and this is quite a bit of a bad theme we're coming into here. Poor performances and yet another goalless draw. This is not good enough. That's 3 in the bounce for United now, and it looks like it's catching up to us a little bit. Earlier on in the season we were saying, hey, we're getting points while still playing poorly. It's catching up to us now. It's not consistent, and it's proving this to us now. We were getting through games where we go, you know what, we're not playing well, but we're winning games. And then we had games where we are playing well and we weren't getting results, and we're thinking, you know, that's a good problem to have. Now we're not playing well, we're not scoring goals. Three games in a row where we've not scored, and that's just not good enough for a team like Man United. Let me know what you guys think of the result. We're going to have some guests coming in very, very soon to tell us what they thought of the game. I'm struggling to find talking points. I'm not going to lie. You know what? This is a shit feeling. I liked it better when I wasn't on here. My internet was shit, but United were mint. Now my internet's all right, and United are even worse. So it's not really great, is it? Let me know how you guys are feeling. I've got a comment here that says United to win 4-0. The game's over. To be fair, I think that comment was made a lot earlier than it should have been. Skeptic, we are live now, don't you worry. But yeah, the game was not good enough for us. And I think what we can take from that performance is that we lack a bit of quality up front. We lack, and when I say quality, I don't mean in the starting 11, because Cavani's a fantastic striker. Don't get me wrong, he's fantastic. But it's depth. It's the same problem we have at centre-back. Now, some might argue that our starting centre-backs aren't good enough. But for me, as I've said before on this channel, this quality in depth is just not there. And that's the same for the attack. And in midfield, it feels like the same problem. It's starting to seem like we're seeing that our 11 is okay, but when the 11's not working, we don't have something else to change it. And it's becoming apparently clear that without Paul Pogba, we are a far worse team. I didn't have to explain that for you, but to those of you who don't seem to think Pogba adds anything to this team, you can see clearly we're a worse team without him. You know, and we're relying far too much on Bruno Fernandes. Now, you can argue he's not been great in the last couple of games, but we should not be relying on one player to get us through games and to win them, to win us points. That's not how it works. That's not how a quality team works. It's not good enough. The midfield wasn't good enough. Chance creation was so poor. The ball was moving so slowly. And I didn't understand it, because in the first half, in the first 10 or so, first 20, 25 minutes, we played some good stuff. I liked how we were playing. I liked how we were fizzing the ball about, especially in the final third. You know, we were playing some fizz passes in. We were playing one-touch stuff. Luke Shaw was creating plenty of chances. And I'm thinking, you know what, this is good. Second half, it just wasn't there. You know, we've comments are flooding in now. Lovely to see you all. Connor says, Rashford's shown up again. Been saying for ages he's bang average, and I'm sorry if that's a bit strong, but yet again ineffective. Nobody played well today apart from Dino. Jamie says, embarrassing performance. Barry's in the comments, load of unadulterated shite. An evening wasted, would rather have worked. Fair play. And you work in the medical industry as well, so that probably would have been a bit more beneficial. Dreadful says Fred Woodward. Gary, who's on Facebook, says not good enough, but Henderson's stock is rising. That is very true. Gary, do me a favour, head over to youtube.com/AllForUnited. Make sure to join us on YouTube. What are you doing on Facebook, mate? Come on. Elliot says defence kept switching off when needed for the attack. Bland and nearly fell asleep. You know what? I was struggling to even see the ball. Never mind keep my eyes open. The fog was an absolute nightmare. Mohammed is in the comments, says we were very poor, didn't look bothered. One shot on target is an absolute joke, and yes, it is. Jamie in there with Cavani isn't fit. It didn't look like it. It looked like we rushed him a little bit, didn't it? Interesting one. Mohammed again, Pogba has been injured. We've been really poor. Yeah, since we've been injured, he's been injured. It has been poor. I'm seeing a lot of you in here from Facebook. Head over to youtube.com/AllForUnited. Come join us on there. Subscribe if you haven't already and get your thoughts in. We're going to have our guests come in now. The first one is going to be Mark. We'll see how he thought of the game. Mark, how are you doing? Are you still awake?
I am still awake, yeah. I was trying to log in something else and I got taken by surprise. Sorry about that. Hello. I mean, it was a very dreary game, wasn't it? There's not a lot of talking points. I think the team are just fatigued at the moment. I think it's a real problem, and I know that thanks Joe, you absolute baller. I know that we are overly reliant on Bruno, but I have to say that we're missing Pogba massively, and it's obviously a big worry when he does probably leave in the summer. We're going to really struggle, and we need to get that replacement for him. Yeah, really disappointing performance. I don't think it's the case. I think this is something I feel that a lot of us do a lot, and we are very reactionary. Now, I know in the last 10 games we've only lost 1-3, and we've drawn a lot, and we've lost one. But it could be a whole lot worse. And the problem is, because of the team we have, and we are still 3, 4, 5 players short, it's very easy for us to get excited when we're playing well, and oh my god, we're top of the league. I didn't expect that many points, and but then it's also, on the very flip side, easy to lambast and be very critical. And yes, we should be critical because they were poor today, but we're still unbeaten in 21. Yes, we should be getting more goals, and that's a real problem at the moment. But we're missing, Cavani's only just come back. Greenwood has probably been our brightest. Martial, I think, is very poor at the moment and not providing anything. Didn't play today, and I think he needed that time out. Rashford is also someone we're very much reliant upon as well. And I think that we need to be very careful how we go about getting too angry about it, because it's no good being negative at all. And I feel, whilst we're going through a bit of a slump, we are still in second. Leicester dropped points today, and this isn't me trying to make excuses or be forgiving to a very poor performance. But I'm not on the Glazers pro, but I'm just trying to be sort of realistic about it. That I've seen too many negatives, and it's a draw. We didn't drop 3 points. Yes, we should have played better. Yes, we should have won. But I think that it's become very clear that Matic is probably just too past it now. I think that one of our worst pairings, and that's statistically true, is Matic and Fred. I think that they kind of bring out the worst in each other. I would have liked to have seen McTominay. I know that obviously he's just come back from an injury as well, and he only played one game, came off half time, whatever. But I would like to have seen him a little bit more. And I think as you pointed out earlier, and someone else mentioned, Pogba is a huge miss. And I said this earlier as well, and it really does concern me. And I think that the quicker we get into that, he gets back into that team to exactly that, bring that sort of connectivity in the midfield, the better. Really, there's a lot to work on. I don't think it's Ollie that hasn't got a plan B. He's still learning. I feel that I was having this discussion earlier, as when your number 2 is Mike Phelan, and this is no disrespect to him, in the last 4 years of Ferguson's reign, United were poor, and we managed to grind out results. And I can honestly see Phelan probably going, or at least I hope so. And I don't mean that horribly, but at least I hope that he probably makes way in the next 2 years. And I really hope that McKenna is pushed up, because he's by all accounts a very attacking approached coach. And I do feel that is our problem. I really feel that whilst the players seem to, that they are playing a huge amount of games, and I know that this is their lifestyle and their job, but you can only give so much energy. No one's ever done this before. No one's able to go through a pandemic, play 2 games a week, and be okay with it. And there is normally more of a rotation, so you've got to try and give the players a little bit of slack. Criticize them where you can. Yes, you can criticize the management, but at the same time, I think that we are lucky to be where we are. No one predicted this. So at that point, you need to say, okay, let's not try and get too ahead of ourselves. Let's just appreciate that we are here. We didn't lose. There's still 3 or 4 positions to pinpoint, and we will get there eventually. This wasn't an overnight process. Last year, we just managed to get 3rd. We were happy about getting to 3 semi-finals or whatever it was and get 3rd position. We're now in 2nd. We've got an opportunity to potentially get 2 trophies. And I really feel that we need to sort of hold on to those things and not be too reactionary. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, it is very easy, especially in the modern day, to go, we're amazing and then we're terrible. We've got to find a little balance there. And I think that's something our fan base struggles with.
And you know what, I do the same. You know, I think something that I've learned, especially in the last few months, like normally after a game like that, I'd be ranting and raving, getting really upset, but there's no point. It's not going to achieve anything. And I'm not trying to sort of say this is how you should do things, but I just think that you've got to just try and take a step back a little bit, weigh up the positives. I know there weren't too many in that games, but the one that I can see is that we didn't drop all 3 points. Okay, we're still in second. Leicester dropped 2. Man City are going to run away with it anyway. So as long as we try to find that form again, we're always going to come through a slow. We shouldn't take things for granted. We should understand that we're in a very good position, and as long as we don't lose that position and continue, then you can get pissed off. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. A big one I wanted to ask you about. A lot of the comments are going on about our midfield pairing of Fred and Matic, and you touched on it a little bit before. What did you make of that pairing, and why do you think it didn't quite work? Because I know Fred's not been in great form, but last season he had a very good season. He does have something in certain games. What is our best midfield partnership then, with the players we have? Say Pogba's not fit. What is our best partnership?
Statistically, back in January, our best midfield partnership was obviously Bruno every time. Bruno gets in as number 10. Obviously, we haven't seen enough of Van der Beek. But the two in the double pivot that gives us the majority of points, and I think at the time, it was over 2 points per game, and there were a fair amount of games, was Matic and Pogba. Now, I know that Matic has certainly gone off the boil, and I think ever since that sort of 6-1 win for Spurs against us, that was really the turning point. And I just think, you know, he's 32. He started his career very young, and I've spoken about before, when you start your career very young, a bit like Rooney, you do seem to tail off a little bit earlier. And I just think that's happened to Matic a little bit. We got him a little bit too late, and it's just unfortunate. But I'm not smoking anything. I'm just trying to calm everybody down, and it's, you know what I mean. I am angry too, but it's one of those things. Like, life goes on. It's okay. We'll try and win the next one, and yes, be critical. But next time, you know, if we win 4-0, everyone will be jubilant again, and we'll forget last week. So, but yeah, I think our second best partnership is Fred and McTominay, and I think that's because McTominay obviously is more of a box to box, but I think that he brings out the best and gives that little bit of stability for Fred. And Fred is one of our better DMs, not quite really, and he's got different attributes to McTominay, so they seem to bring the best. But with Fred and Matic, I think in a way they're very, very similar. I think that Matic is a much better passer, and Fred has a lot more energy to close players down. But Matic is very good at closing down too. But they're too similar, and I think when you have two similars, ultimately, I've said this millions of times, but you don't want to play a double pairing. Unfortunately, Ollie has to do that because we don't have that one anchor in order to protect that defence and allow our forwards and players in front to go forward. But they're too similar, and I think that's why today didn't work. And I think you saw a change as soon as McTominay. Listen, I'm not McTominay's biggest fan. He is not a defensive midfielder. But what he is a very good box to box, and he's only going to get better. He's still very young, and I think that you saw that today. As soon as Matic came off and McTominay came on, it did seem to spark a little bit of a lease of life, even for a few minutes. We saw something. We saw a change, and I just think that's because Fred and Matic, and I think statistically they are our worst pairing. From a win and points ratio perspective, and then so I think that's just why. I mean, it's difficult to know, isn't it? But we need, unfortunately, and I've said this for a very long time. I've criticised him and get very angry with Pogba when he comes out and says what he says. But ultimately, he is on paper, even with Bruno there, our best player at the club. And I think that really shines through on games like tonight. As soon as we have him and Bruno within the team, the link up, the intelligence, and being able to break down a lower block, because that's what Palace did tonight. Everyone knows that if you have a low block, you've got a very good chance of sitting back, defending well, and we can't carve anyone open. And that's all that's happened in the last 10 games. People have sat back. We haven't played big teams necessarily, only Chelsea and maybe one or two others, but everyone's sat back. And we have struggled at points with that, not at the beginning of the season, but more recently, and that's because we haven't got Pogba. And Van der Beek obviously hasn't played enough, and he would have been a good option today. And then obviously we've had injuries, a bit more injuries recently. Cavani was obviously off for a couple of games. Greenwood seems to have got a bit of a lease of life, but he can't do it on his own. Rashford is absolutely knackered and needs some time out. And then his replacement, Martial, unfortunately, for whatever reason, isn't good enough to be able to take over from him. So you can honestly, you can understand why it must be a strain and a difficulty for them. And I think Ollie, in his mind, is probably one way or another subconsciously telling the board, look, my team isn't quite what it needs to be, and I do need those 3 or 4 players to be able to fill those holes and have that plan B. Sorry for waffling.
That's all right. You've 100% with everything you just said. I think it says a lot about the game. The more people are asking about your haircut than they are about the actual game.
Yeah.
So before you go, who cut your hair?
My missus. She we in the first lockdown. She no, swear down. She in the first lockdown. She watched a YouTube video and she did it a few months ago. She didn't touch the top. She just did the sides and the back, and she did a very good job. So I'll let her know. She'll be happy.
Fair play. All right. Thank you for coming on, Mark. We're going to get some more other guests on, but cheers for coming on. Everyone go and follow Mark on Twitter and make sure to stick around. See you in a bit, Mark.
Bye-bye.
Right, so that was our first guest. We've got 3 more waiting to come on, so plenty more opinions, plenty more insights to come in, so don't you go anywhere. Make sure if you are watching right now, like the video and give it a quick retweet, give it a quick share, wherever you're watching it. Do that, because we're going to have Abdel on the show very, very quickly. Before that, I need to tell you to hit that like button, as Temi says. Temi's in the comments. I don't know why he's not on this video. He's very busy. He's a busy man, Temi. That's why. And speaking of Temi, he put out a tweet just before saying that he's glad that Martial didn't play today because he would have been used as the scapegoat. And to be honest, I agree to an extent. I think this result shows that it is a little bit more than who plays up front. There's a lack of creativity in general going on at the minute. No, Martial's not in fantastic form, but it's unfair to blame just him. So I'm also glad that he didn't play, because it would have just hidden from the fact that currently we're not creating enough. But we'll get onto that in a minute. Abdel is coming on now. Abdel, how are you doing? Where do you think it went wrong?
There's a lot of places where it went wrong, a lot of reasons too. Our build-up was not good. Our passing was not good. Our progression was not good, and our final third combination or final pass, if you want to say, was not good. So every single phase of play in a football game was not good today. So
that doesn't help, does it?
No, it does not. It does not. Luckily, Crystal Palace had nothing about them going forward, so they didn't cause us much, except for the first 3 shots where we gave them the ball right in front of the box, and that one at the very end where I don't know if it was offside or not from who was it? Anholt?
Oh, it was Van Aanholt, yeah.
Yeah, Van Aanholt, yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of issues. Like some players looked tired, and at the first 30 minutes, I was like, they look tired, but they're trying. There's because we had a good 20 minutes in the first half where we just put a bit more pressure than we did for the second half. The second half was absolutely terrible. And I was like, okay, like for example, Luke Shaw, he was really trying hard, even though I sort of sense that he's looking tired. He's looking like he's out of it a little bit. And Bruno Fernandes was completely not in the game. Like, he was completely out of the game. Matic and Fred just could not find him. And he at the very end of the game, you saw him as far back as Matic, like on par with the center backs, trying to get on the ball and make something happen from there, which is an issue that's structurally starts from the back. So because we use the double pivot of Matic and Fred, or if it was Scott or and Fred, like it doesn't matter. This combination, the different combinations we have in the double pivot, are just not good enough. Like whether like I love Fred and I love Scott McTominay, Matic. I don't have nothing against him, but he's okay. But they're just not cut out at the moment for the standard that we want to play at. Whether the speed, whether the thinking, the intelligence, the positioning. So all three of them just do not hack it at the moment, and we wanna, for example, fix it by dropping Donny van de Beek in a position where he's less comfortable. We want to fix it by dropping anybody that we have, like just put Mata on and Bruno Fernandes, or just put anybody on, but without actually thinking of the full structure of the team and how all that's going to work together. And when you have Bruno Fernandes not really on his day, then like we really did not have a midfield today in the sense of like what a midfield does in the final third. You know what I mean? Putting the pressure on,
Yeah.
trying to thread passes to the forward players for them to do their 1-2s and get a shot on goal. We just did not have that. Like the best they've done our midfield today was just win a couple of the balls off the Crystal Palace forward players. So like if you've noticed, most of our play was going down the left, and that's not a new thing. That's something
Yeah.
we always do. But there were no central positioning to hold the pressure on. Like you would see Matic and Bruno Fernandes and Shaw and Rashford all on that half space and flank area where the middle positioning, the middle phase of the pitch, it's empty. There's nobody in it. So if we lose the ball, which we do because our passing was not good today, it's easy for Crystal Palace to just lump it to someone free in the middle from the Crystal Palace second line. So that it just was not good enough. The double pivot were really bad today. Fred and Matic, and I'm not excusing the rest of the team. Like for example, Maguire and Bailly had a shocker at the very beginning where they just misplaced a couple of passes, and it almost cost us the goal. Greenwood was trying, but still was not very effective with his combination play with Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Rashford continues to struggle with teams that really put a lot of bodies in front of him. So yeah, nothing was really working. The only person who did okay today for me would be Henderson, even though he didn't have much to do.
Yeah, him. Yeah. Luke Shaw as well, and I think
and Luke Shaw,
it's key
he tried.
Yeah, and I think it's key that you mentioned the tiredness, and I thought a few players didn't actually look fit. We've mentioned already Cavani didn't really look fully fit. I'm not sure why we played him. I think it might have just been we don't have anyone else. But I do want to talk to you about the midfield, and I'll ask you that in a second. While Ugly Bears just said, "Is that the title challenge effectively over?" What title challenge? No one said that, did they? We'll just move on. So the midfield, then, do you think Ollie's playing this double pivot? Because everyone's saying, why are we playing two defensive midfielders in a game against Crystal Palace? Why are we doing this? Do you think that he's waiting to sign a proper number 6 to be that anchor man, to sit in front of the defense and just be, you know what, you guys do go and play 2-8s? Or do you think he actually wants to play this system? What do you think it is? Because at the minute, I feel like if we sign a player, we can play with 2-8s and we can have Van de Beek and suit that system. What do you think it is?
I think it has, like, I know the pundits, everybody says he's protecting the center backs. I don't really think so. I think it's more of the type of players we have available at the club at the moment. So if you look at, we don't have any wingers, like natural wingers, right? If you want to play with 2-8s, let's say like Manchester City does, with what Pep Guardiola does. So if you want to play with 2-8s, you gotta have two natural wingers, because your 8s are gonna slot into the half spaces that the the wingers leave when they stretch the play at the very top, like on the touch line kind of thing, and then you have your striker right in the middle between those that front five kind of thing.
Hmm.
Some teams, if they have a really good fullback, one who can recover at speed, they will add another body and they make it a six, a front six. But we don't have natural wingers. We have inside forwards. Rashford is not a natural winger. Martial is not a natural winger. Greenwood is not a natural winger. Who would you really say is a natural winger? Like Ahmad probably, and Ahmad just arrived. You know, so in that sense, Ollie really does not need two eights. He just needs 110 behind the five, which would be the two inside forwards that are cutting inside, like Mane and Salah for
Mm.
Pool, for example. You know what I mean? And then he just needs a little bit of a productivity from the fullbacks. Now, because we don't have attacking fullbacks, or when we started out with Ollie, we didn't have really attacking fullbacks.
Mm.
The only way you could make up for that lack of compatibility in all the players that we have is if you attack asymmetrically. So, for example, if Luke Shaw was at the very top of the pitch, right, and Rashford moves into that half space like beside him to do
Yeah.
underlaps and overlaps between them. The person that fills the number five body in the front line would be the 10, because the other fullback wouldn't be moving forward, because we don't need him to be moving forward at the moment. He would tuck in like how Pep Guardiola does in a City in an inverted fullback position, right? Or he stays at the very back and be a third center back while we're in the possession phase,
Mm.
right? And that's what we're currently doing, because like if you exclude Luke Shaw and his improvement this season, we
Mm.
don't have two naturally attacking fullbacks. We don't have two natural wingers, and frankly, we don't have enough eights, because
Yeah.
Pogba's always injured.
Yeah.
So the system that really fits us and fits the players that we have is either the 3-5-2 or the 4-2-3-1. You know, and this will open up another discussion, which is like how bad we are at recruitment and how we have a mixture of players from every single different manager that we United had in the last 30 years. It's another discussion, but on today, like these issues really come up to the surface. Like you see that, like the lack of compatibility between the players. You know what I mean? There are certain things where you have to criticize Ollie and the coaching team on. Like, for example, when Shaw and Rashford get into good positions, sometimes it feels like they don't know what to do.
Mm.
Like it wasn't told to them. Like as soon as you make this pass, you do you do this move, or you move in this to this area. Sometimes they seem like they lack that, and other times they get it spot on and perfect. There is lack of inconsistency in these areas. So that's why when I criticize, I always say the problem all he has is with the people around him, the coaches around him. I think he needs to improve that. But him as a manager,
Mm.
quote unquote, I think he's really good. And like if you only talk purely tactics, the tactics are never like dumb or stupid or
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
tactics or something like that. It's just the coaching of what to do in certain situation by the players. Now, a part of it, I think Oli likes to give players freedom a little bit to let their imagination come into play. But if you look at the team United has, they don't really hit that top tier quality to allow them
Mm.
that. So you have to be a little bit more rigid with them. Add a little bit more of, no, you need to do this move and that move, and a little bit more confined a little bit. So these would be my criticisms of Oli, because like people would say patterns of play, blah blah blah. Southampton, or I don't know, Crystal Palace or some lower team plays better than us, they look more structured. It's because their players really can't be creative. Their managers have to be very rigid in their system, like very rigid in their system. Like even Pep Guardiola, he does not. His systems are not really rigid. His systems are very fluid because he trusts that the players that he has have the intelligence to move into the positions required. He just sets up a frame and a structure and a couple of principles, or maybe something like a tip or an advice on, like, this team does this, so we need to exploit them in that area. But the intelligence are there in the 11 players he has. You know what I mean? We don't, unfortunately. And I don't want to be harsh on the players that we have, but then not all of them have the positioning intelligence, and even on the ball quality too. Like Fred.
No, I agree. Yeah.
So like when you play against the top teams, Manchester United play against the top teams, why can't we keep possession? Because the on the ball qualities for a lot of the players that we have is not good. So that's why we have to give up a little bit of possession and hit them on counter or something like that. So that's the thing. Yeah.
No, I agree. Always good to get your insight. Tactically, we've got the details there. Thank you for joining us,
No
everyone.
worries.
Go and follow Abdel on Twitter. I'm sure there'll be a thread on his tactics and his insight on the game. Make sure to go and check that out later. Abdel, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, take care, man.
Right then, that was Abdel. We've got two more guests left, and I think we made some interesting points there on the fact that Ollie doesn't ever get it tactically completely wrong. I don't think we've ever had that situation. It's always intricate moments, little details here and there, isolated moments. It's never really a whole tactical output that's been wrong. And I think when that's the situation, that's on your backroom staff. That's when you have to look at Ollie and go, is he not communicating to his backroom staff what he wants properly? Is he not outlining what he wants to see? Or is it the backroom staff not implementing that properly? There's clearly something wrong there, but the tactics themselves are never wrong or never completely useless. It's always little moments, little decision-making, little isolated incidents, and that's what we need to question, not Ollie's tactics itself. But we'll get on to our next guest and we'll hear what he has to say. James is coming on now. James, what do you think of this discussion then? Interestingly, the talk about backroom stuff has come into it. What do you have to say on that situation? And just make sure your mic's on.
You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, sound. I mean, we were talking about it the other day. I think it was on for United about the backroom staff and how realistically they're at the actual level of coaching is probably not where we want to be. But I think they're a bit of a stopgap right now until Ollie figures out 100% what he wants to do, and then you can implement stuff that help then implement that style to a good standard. But they're doing the job at the minute of getting the United culture into the youngsters and keeping that old guard sort of mentality around. But I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? You can never really tell from an outside what the best thing for the team is. But yeah, I think going back to the tactics as well that he played today, I think you never get the tactics catastrophically wrong, and he didn't again today. But I think especially in the second half, he could have gone to sort of a bit of a more regimented system. It seemed like he just sent them out and told them to sort of what would you call it, express themselves in a sense. And I think that was sort of our downfall because no one was really on the same page, especially with our passing and everything. Like even the link up between Rashford and Shaw was a lot more poor than it really has been. So I think if we went a bit more regimented, he sort of said, when you're in this area, do this. When you're in this area, do this. That sort of thing. I think maybe we would have had a little bit more success, and maybe everyone would have been on the same sort of wavelength. But yeah, it was definitely frustrating tonight.
What do you think frustrated you the most then? Was it because we mentioned the passing and the quality in the final third, and that really wasn't up to scratch? A lot of people have mentioned the midfield pairing. A lot of people, no doubt, will jump on Bruno's back. A lot of people will mention the wingers. What area was it that really disappointed you the most?
I think it's hard to blame the forwards in that much because they didn't really see much of the ball at all, did they? I think the problems really, in my opinion, started at the back. We were keeping possession well between the centre-backs and the full-backs, but we were keeping possession sort of 20 yards too deep. I think, the passing between the... anyway, the passing between the full-backs and the centre-backs was fair enough, but you got to do it on the halfway line, not sort of 20, 25 yards in your own half. So I think I've lost my train of thought there. That's completely throwing me off.
What
Yeah,
was that? Someone into your room or something?
yes, yeah. I ain't got a haunted room. Don't worry. But yeah, I think you look at the way City play. Diaz and Stones are playing it between them on the halfway line, often in the opposition's half, and it just brings the whole team forward a little bit. And I think maybe we missed Victor Lindelof, dare I say it today, because we sort of saw the limitations of Bailly's on the ball game. Like I saw his pass map after the game, and the majority of his passes were either sideways or backwards. And for a centre back, that's a bit worrying, isn't it? There was no real progression from the back, so you're relying on Matic to drop deep, bring it forward. You're relying on Bruno to drop deep, bring it forward, which again was catastrophic going forward because we don't have his influence up front, and the attackers don't get on the ball as much. So I think we really shot ourselves in the foot by how deep we actually played, because realistically, with the Palace side that they actually put out, given their injuries and everything, I don't think they'd have really put up much resistance if you'd have tried to just move the ball up 20 yards further or so.
No, I think that's a very interesting point you make on Lindelof, and that'll be a big talking point, I'm sure, on social media in terms of whether he or Bailly should start. And it's interesting that you say about the line as well, because we played a high line against Chelsea with Lindelof, and most people would say that when we play a high line, we'd rather have Bailly because he's quicker. And it seemed like the complete opposite today. It was really strange. Just looking at some of the comments to see what they think. As you said, second half felt like figure it out ball. That seems like what it is. Strange comment here from Powered72. If we don't finish second, Old has to go. I assume that means Ollie. But why is that now? What? If we don't finish second, Ollie has to go. That seems like a bit of a ridiculous statement. So I'm just not going to talk about that anymore. Should there be an inquest with Ollie asking the question, why and how United let a potential title challenge slip? Because we don't have a good enough squad. Simple. Back on to Lindelof and Bailly. Who is our best centre-back then? Because when Bailly plays, he plays a couple of good games, and we think, you know what? He partners Maguire really, really well. And then we see Lindelof in big games, and we go, actually, he's done well in this game. And then we start to think Bailly suits certain games, Lindelof suits certain games, and now they've completely switched over. So what the hell do we do?
I don't know. Individually, they're brilliant, aren't they? Individually, they're real quality. I think we've got the wrong. I've probably got this completely wrong, but I think we've got this wrong mentality with who plays in what sort of game. I think realistically, if you're playing against a team like Crystal Palace, I think that having Lindelof and his passing ability from the back would be better. Whereas if you're playing in a big game, maybe with better, quicker players, you play by so you can push the line up a little bit, and you're not having to drop so deep to deal with the pace. I just think we play so much better when we're pushed higher up the pitch. We saw it with Chelsea when we were high up the pitch. We didn't have a bad game against Chelsea by any means, especially given the complete lack of creativity in that squad that we had. I think to have an even game against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, especially in the form they're in, shows that we didn't actually play that bad at all. So I think, maybe we have to relook at when and where we're playing these players, because, I think today maybe, I know after the game, Solskjaer's come out and said Lindelof had a back problem, but I think maybe if he was in the game, maybe that brings our line up a little bit more, and his passing ability means that our midfielders aren't having to come so deep to pick the ball up.
No, I agree. Another one I wanted to ask you, because I mentioned it earlier, but we didn't really talk about it a lot. Fitness of some of the players, because a lot of them looked very tired tonight. Jarvis mentions that 42 games have been played so far. Do you think that has a factor, or is that too easy an excuse? Because I know there's a certain section of the fan base that'll go, "Oh, you're paid to play football, just get on with it." But it does play a part, doesn't it?
I think it probably does. Yeah, you look at all the teams in Europe at the minute, teams in England that are still in European competitions, and none of them have, other than City, have had a real consistent run of form. But then you look at what sets City apart, and it's the fact that they've got two different squads in their team that could get top four. So that shows that they're able to rotate and they're able to rest these players, and they're really thriving from it. Whereas no other club really has that. You could say maybe Chelsea, but that sort of contingency within the squad isn't quite right to constantly be rotating. I think they'd suffer from it. So we need, I think, to really, especially with COVID and everything, we'd need two separate squads that were capable of playing well. And I think it's not realistic to expect that. So I think, we can't expect to win every game, especially given the circumstances. So, I think tiredness definitely does play a part, and no team is dealing with it well, so we can't expect United to deal with it any better, really, can we?
No, and definitely it does play a part, but I don't want to use that as the main excuse for this performance because I think there's a lot more to it than just that. We do have to talk about the attack because this is now 3 games in a row that we've not scored, and I'm beginning to forget what scoring goals feels like. What did you make of? I mean, I know you said that the attack didn't really see the ball, but when it did get on the ball, did it do enough for you to say we deserve to score? Because one shot on target is terrible.
No, not at all. I think the frustrating thing was the second that Cavani came off, Luke Shaw puts in the only good cross of the game, and it falls to Dan James. I think, if Cavani had still been on the pitch, that would have been the best chance of the game. So, realistically, the best chance we had, other than that, was that Greenwood shot at the end that went just over. So, yeah, it does speak volumes. I think the players up front, while they didn't get much service, they didn't make anything of the service they did get. But I think Rashford in particular was frustrating because he seemed to give the ball away more times than actually made a pass. But yeah, I think just the quality on the pitch tonight was uncharacteristically poor. I think we're not scoring a lot at all, and I think it is just a dip in form, really. I think it coincides perfectly with Pogba not being in the team, but again, you can't use that as an excuse either. We've got our two midfielders today cost 80 million combined. You should expect a little bit of creativity or something of real quality from one of those 2 players, and we just didn't get it.
Fully agree with you. Once again, you've been superb on the show, mate. Thank you for coming on. Well spoken. Cheers. Everyone, go and follow James. He's doing some awesome stuff. Make sure to go and check him out. Cheers for coming on, mate.
Cheers.
Right, we've got one more guest who's waiting very patiently, so I will not spend too long before he comes on. But I do need to address a couple of comments regarding the manager. Let me find it. Where's that comment? There we go. It's directed at Mark, who's in the comments having a chat with different viewers. So thank you for getting involved, everyone, of course. He says, if you think Ollie is good enough to win trophies over Klopp and Pep, you are mistaken. He has no pedigree. Right. Let me ask you a question. How is pedigree earned? It's through winning trophies. And how do you win trophies? Through being given opportunities to do so. Now, yes, you can argue we've reached 3 semi-finals. Ollie's not really pushed on and won one yet, but he has to learn. You have to compare the experience that Pep and Klopp have had to what Ollie's had, and you could say he has no pedigree, but he's not had an opportunity to earn it yet. So let's give him that time to do so. He is learning on the job, and I think he has been learning so far, and I think he's learned a lot, and we're learning more as we go on. Ollie will become a better manager as we go forward, and I think, as Jacob said, he can learn more. I don't think we should be criticizing too much in terms of where we are right now, because yes, we are lucky to be here, as Mark says, because everyone else has been poor, but we've also been good in phases as well. We've been hot and cold this season, so I think it's unfair to really say that Ollie's not got any pedigree when he's still trying to get his opportunity to do that. Another one I will say on the Ollie out thing is, who else this season has been good enough to finish second to Manchester City? City are robots right now. They're doing what they're doing fine. We have to aim to be better than the rest of the league. And I think we can do that. And we're on our way to doing that. No one else is looking like finishing second at the minute. Leicester dropped points today as well. We've overall had better form. Now, that's not to say we deserve to be in second, but we can correct our form, in my opinion. I think we can pick this up. We're not losing many games. We're just dropping points here and there. So there is an opportunity to go and show our quality. And even if we do finish second, it's still progress. Let's not get overawed by what City are doing. In a normal circumstance, we've gone from third to second, so that's progress. We've finished second. We're not finished second yet, obviously, but if we do, that's progress. We've got to see it as it is. We've got to be careful with how we word things and how we see things at the minute. Tyrone just replied to me saying, Ollie's making the same mistakes again and again. What mistakes? Why can he not see Van de Beek is desperately needed? Well, that might have something to do with system, mate. Because you don't want to shoehorn him into a formation that he doesn't suit. He's also injured at the minute. and he's also not fully fit, so maybe that's why. But in general, that might be a system thing. Maybe we're waiting for signings that suit Van der Beek. We don't want to just shoehorn him in and go, you know what, play this role, do what you can. We want him to be effective. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, we don't want to just shoehorn him. We don't want to just drop Bruno, because that's the position Van der Beek needs to be. He needs to be in those kind of positions rather than playing too far deep, because that's not his position. Maybe we're waiting on a certain system. Maybe we're waiting on a certain pairing of players, because I don't think Van der Beek is going to be effective in our current setup. That's just my opinion personally. But we'll see. We'll see. We're bringing on Stu next. He's waited very patiently, so let's have him on. Stu, how are you doing, mate? Hopefully you've not gotten too bored in the background there. Make sure your mic's switched on because it's muted at the minute. But what did you make of it? Let's hear your initial thoughts.
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say that all the three lads have spoke brilliantly, and pretty much I echo everything they've said. I think we all know the game was poor tonight. We probably know the reasons why the game was poor tonight, so I won't go into that too much. What I would say, though, is, and you're a coach, Karthik, so you know this better than anybody, a system is just a foundation. And what it does, it gives a player a piece of the park, so to speak, where he's going to play in. But he has to have that intelligence throughout the game to make his, to become a value of any team. And we just don't have that right now. And I don't quite know where that spark has gone. And I would agree, I think we are very tired. Some players are very tired. I think there's been a mental fatigue as well as a physical fatigue. But I said last night on Wall of Reds that the game was going to be a 20-minute game. Which sounds a bit stupid, I know. But what I meant by that is it would be determined within the first 20 minutes. Because if we'd scored within that first 20 minutes, the game would have opened up and it would have played into our hands a lot more. By not scoring, it plays into Palace's hands. They did play a deep block against us, a low block. I think every time we had the ball, we were gifted it in our half, and then all 11 players were back in Palace's half. They set it with a 4-4-2. And it's very difficult for us to break it down. What I'm disappointed about, and what I mean by player intelligence, what I'm disappointed about is sometimes somebody on our side, whoever that may be, Maguire, whether it's Bruno or whatever, has got to be dictating our play to our players and allowing teams to have a bit more possession. So in essence, we're drawing them onto us. So it does open up the spaces if we can get the ball turned over quickly. And we lack, for whatever reason, we seem to lack that intelligence. And it's such a shame because I think you're absolutely right, Karthik. And certainly Mark was earlier about an overreaction. I think as soon as the final whistle went, everybody's thinking, what a terrible performance, etc. Ollie doesn't know what he's doing. But football, it's never an easy sport. Yes, you score goals to win, don't concede, etc. But it's never an easy sport. And I said on Ben's lunchtime show, we are lacking bad winners. We need people who are bad winners and bad losers. And what I mean by a bad winner is if we win a game 1 or 2-0, you should be picking the bones out of it. Why didn't we win 4 or 5? We just don't have that. In the past, we have. And I think our fan base is spoiled a lot by that, where we've had 8 or 9 bad winners in our team. And it just galvanizes the whole group of players. And we seem to be missing that at the minute.
I think you're right in that sense. In terms of bad winners and bad losers, we need ruthlessness when we're winning, and we need a group of players that just hates losing. Now, obviously, no footballer, no professional loves losing. No one likes losing. But we need people who hate it so much that they'll do anything to make sure that doesn't happen. And I remember I'll point to one of my heroes, Wayne Rooney. He hated losing. You could see it on his face whenever we were playing the game. Bruno looks like that at the minute. He's not the same aggression. He tends to have a little bit of a moan sometimes. But we need that level of player. Now, do you think that happens through signings, or do you think that can be developed? Because surely that's a thing that is already within a player, and someone should be able to bring that out.
Karthik, you're born with it. You're born. You are born a bad winner. You really are. You're born with that determination and that aggression and that will to win. You can look at any sport. People are winners are single-minded, extremely single-minded. They're staying behind after training. They're turning up 2 hours before training and practicing. They're very, very single-minded, and unfortunately, we just haven't got that. Bruno has it. I think Maguire's got it, but he seems to be very introvert rather than extrovert. And we need Maguire to be more vocal. We need Luke Shaw to be more vocal. We need Rashford to be more vocal. We need somebody to take the game by the scruff of the neck, shove it against the wall, and beat 10 bells of shit out of it. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but we do. And that's how you win a game of football. As I said before, Karthik, you're a coach and you know this. It's all right saying, well, unlucky lads, but maybe we should have done this. Hold on, lads. There's been 6 or 7 opportunities in this game where you've made completely the wrong choice. You've got to be smarter on the ball. And unfortunately, we just don't have that. Abdel made a point about on midfield, and I know you've made a point, and I'd like to touch on it if I may.
Yeah.
And that is that I've been saying for a long time that our 3 central midfielders, McTominay, Matic and Fred, just aren't good enough. Now, those are the cards that we're dealt with at the minute. But what I'd like to see is a deep line CDM. There's somebody like Brozovic from Inter Milan, Pogba to the left of him and Van der Beek to the right. So you can play the 2 8s, okay? And then you've got Bruno, and then I'd like to see a floating 2, whoever that may be. Because, again, when you've got a difficult system to mark or a different rotation of player to mark, it becomes a nightmare for the back 4. And at the moment, when we're setting up with our system, we know that we've got one on the left, one on the right, and one in the middle. We need to rotate all those 3 so that Rashford isn't always on the left or always on the right, or Cavani isn't always in the middle. You need to rotate those 3 because centre halves hate forwards that are live wires. They can't be doing it because they don't know who they're picking up at any one time. And unfortunately, we're lacking that at the moment. So I'd like to see us move to that kind of way of playing.
No, I'm fully on that as well. I think, especially when Ollie first came in, that's the system we were playing. It was either a 4-3-3 with a holding midfielder and 2 8s, or it was that diamond with a floating 2 and an attacking midfielder that would roam about the pitch. And I think that's what Ollie wants to do, but we don't have that. I think we quickly realised that Matic can't play every week, so we need that player. And we also need a floating 2 that can go out into wide areas and have ability to score. And that's maybe why we're targeting a player like Sancho. And maybe that's why we're trying to get Martial, Rashford, and those kind of players in as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A couple of weeks ago, I got slaughtered on here, only because at that particular time, I didn't see Sancho fitting us. And he was having a bad time of it, but I think he's got 8 goals, 8 assists, hasn't he, in the last 6 or 7 games. So, and he is a wonderful talent. But the more I've looked at Sancho, the more I think he would be a great option for us, providing we get a really good deep holding line midfielder. I think it would be a great option for us, and it also would give Ollie the opportunity to take the likes of Rashford out of the equation for 2 or 3 weeks if he's not playing so well, or Martial or Cavani or whoever, because at the moment, I mean, our bench was woeful tonight. I don't know why we had such a weak bench. Terrible. At the moment, tonight, Ollie had very little choice on what he could and couldn't do to change the game. But Sancho, the more I thought about it over the last week or 2, I think you're absolutely right. I think it'd be a dynamite signing for us. So much so, I probably want him over Haaland. Although I've never thought Haaland's overall game is excellent. He's a world-class striker, don't get me wrong. But I think his game. And I thought you made a great point as well. It was a really good question to James about the 3 centre-halves. It's a very, very difficult one because each of the combinations has worked well at points throughout the season. So Bailly and Lindelof worked well against Sociedad. Bailly Maguire worked well in the past. They didn't work so well tonight, like Lindelof and Bailly. And the reason we played a high line against Chelsea and didn't work so much tonight is Lindelof's actually more astute as a footballer and a reader of the game than Bailly. And that's why it works so well for us. But I think he's carrying a back injury. And one of the biggest things that Sir Alex Ferguson, he was brilliant at looking at stages of the season, groups of games, and resting either resting injured players or sending them for ops, so they were available for the latter end of the season. Ollie's got to kind of learn that. And so when you're talking about Ollie learning on the job, these are the types of things that he needs to get to grips with. And one other thing, I think Mark is right about McKenna. I think when he was at the under-18s, he was an exceptionally attacking coach. And I think maybe it's a time perhaps for Phelan to step down in the summer. Sorry for going on, Karthik.
No, that's fine. Very interesting points you've made there. We are going to wrap the show up very quickly. So thank you for coming on. Some amazing points. So well spoken again.
Pleasure. Absolute
and
pleasure.
I'm sure the viewers can see you on another Wall of Reds very, very soon. So make sure to go and follow Stu. Make sure to subscribe to Alfie United and you'll see more of him. A lot of people are growing to like you, Stu. So well done. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Cheers, Karthik. Thanks very much.
Right, we're going to wrap up the show very quickly, but what I'm going to ask you is the last 20 of you who are watching right now, make sure to like the video. And before I go, I will say, once again, I want to address some of the more reactionary fans. A lot of the people that have come on the show today have said, you've got to temper your expectations, you've got to make sure you don't overreact. And I think that's what some of us are doing at the minute. Yes, we can criticize our squad for not being good enough. Yes, you can criticize our performances. And yes, you can criticize the manager when he gets something wrong. But there's a certain point where you say a little too much. And that's when you say the manager's not good enough. We're not in the right place. We're not being managed well enough. We're not signing the right players. That's a load of bullshit. I'm sorry to swear, but that is a load of bullshit because we are second in the league to what is easily the best team in Europe right now. That's not to say we're the second best team in the league. That's not to say we're the second best team in Europe. But we are the only ones that are near them at the minute. Who else in this league right now is going to be in our position? Leicester are dropping points and they don't look consistent and they've had injuries. Liverpool, the current reigning champions, by the way, are nowhere near the pace that they've set last season. Arsenal are nowhere to be seen. Chelsea are under new management and still transitioning. And then you've got teams like Aston Villa, Southampton, and the rest, and West Ham, of course, who are trying to keep up. No one else is near us at the minute. And in a season where everyone's struggling with fixtures, congested fixture lists, with injuries, with lack of fitness, we have to praise this Manchester United team for doing what it has done. We're lucky to be here right now, but we've done the best with a very bad situation. That's how I'd phrase it at the minute. Last season, we said we had to build consistency in the smaller games. We've done that so far this season. We're not losing those games anymore. What the problem is we're not winning them. In the big games, we said we had to be a bit more brave. We've done that now this season. The problem is we're not winning them anymore. Last season, we were playing a lot more defensively on the counter-attack and defending against the opposition, and we were winning games. But now we're starting to try and play these games on our own turf, on our own means. And we're not winning those games, but we're not conceding a lot either. We've only conceded to Tottenham, the 6 goals, and to Arsenal. That's not a bad record, ladies and gentlemen. Those teams are struggling to beat us as well. So we are making steps. We are making progress. You've just got to be able to see it. 3rd to 2nd is a great step. Even if we finish 3rd, that's fine. Because it's been such a mad season. We've bridged the gap and we've finished above Liverpool. Hopefully. But that is progress. So you've got to temper it. But that's not to say that we're perfect right now and we'll go and win the league next season. I've said all along that this squad is making progress. It's learning. Ollie's making progress. But it needs more. Whether that's in the backroom staff, whether that's through signings. This team needs more. And that is the thing to take away from these last 3 games. We are struggling without Paul Pogba. Whatever you think about him, whether you think he should stay, whether you think he should go, we are struggling without another creative player from Bruno Fernandes. A good team, a title-winning team, does not rely on one player. It just doesn't. You need a whole cohesive unit. You need a whole squad to be able to come in and do a job. Get it through your heads that this team is making progress, but you are right to say that it needs more. Keep it balanced. Don't go to extremes. Don't become like another one of those fools on social media and fan channels that just chat out of shit. Because we on Alfie United want to be better than that. Let's not get reactionary. Let's keep it balanced. That's all I'll say on this show. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to comment what you thought of the game. Make sure to let me know what you think needs to be done. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us everywhere. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I'll see you in a bit. Stay positive.